So we're going to change the order up this evening a little bit, and we're going to start off part of our staff meeting. Representative Jim Lahane's here from the Thornton Burgess Society, along with Senator Susan Moran, Representative Steve Zaros, the Upper Cape Superintendent Roger Forget, I don't believe is here, but he has a Senate representative, and the Upper Cape students. Jim, if you want to take it away for the Thornton Burgess Society.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And am I talking into the microphone all right? Okay, we practiced this. I would like to thank you folks for allowing us to have our first public kickoff of the 150th birthday celebration of Thornton W. Burgess. We have a busy January, this being the first. We have a few other events happening here in January, and we hope to have one or more events every month of the year 2024. It's very ambitious, but well, we're a little crazy. This will be fine. It'll work out just fine. And you have introduced a number of people already, so rather than delay, I would ask Representative Zaros to come on up, and I think he may have a citation which he'd like to read.
Where shall I?
Probably here with the microphone.
All right.
Green light. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you. Honorable Board, Town Administrator, Assistant, everybody in the audience, this is an honor for me, especially in this building and in this town. And I'm the one that gets to read the littlest tree story right around the corner in the pitch black at Christmas time. It's beautiful. So it all ties together. I have a proclamation from the State House, and I'll read it. From the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, House of Representatives, which is 160 men and women from Provincetown to Pittsfield and back, be it hereby known to all that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers our sincerest congratulations to the town of Sandwich and Thornton W. Burgess in recognition of the celebration of the work and the life of Sandwich's Thornton W. Burgess on his 150th birthday. The entire membership extend our very best wishes and express the hope for good fortune and continued success, given this day, the 14th of January, 2024, from the State House in Boston, where American freedom was born. And I get to work by the Speaker of the House, Ronald Mariano, and by me, your State Representative, Stephen Zaros. So to the town of Sandwich, congratulations.
You know, you could kill a speaker here with these chairs. It's really cool.
He doesn't get it.
As the chairman mentioned, Senator Moran had hoped to be here this evening. She could not be. However, there are a number of members of a committee that have been working on this program since last March. And God love them, they still come to meetings, and they're here tonight. And I'm going to ask one of them, Sandy Murray, who is the reference librarian here in town, to come up and read a proclamation from Senator Moran.
Good evening.
Good evening.
All right, here's the proclamation. Commending the Cape Cod Museum of Natural History on its recognition of the 150th anniversary of Thornton W. Burgess's birth. Whereas on January 11th, 2024, the Cape Cod Museum of Natural History will sponsor a celebration of the 150th anniversary of Thornton W. Burgess's birth at the Town of Sandwich Select Board meeting. And whereas Thornton W. Burgess was born in the town of Sandwich on January 14, 1874, and whereas Thornton W. Burgess, a Cape Codder by birth and inheritance through an unbroken line of ancestors, rose to become a celebrated author of 170 books and 15,000 syndicated newspaper articles, hosted the Radio Nature League broadcast, and produced scores of other works. And whereas Thornton W. Burgess was a prolific writer and was among the earliest of conservationists, naturalists, and environmentalists. And whereas Thornton W. Burgess used his stories and the animal characters he created to educate and delight children and adults around the world. And whereas Thornton W. Burgess's abiding passion inspired generations that followed to be lovers and guardians of nature. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Massachusetts Senate hereby commends the Cape Cod Museum of Natural History on its recognition of the 150th anniversary of Thornton W. Burgess's birth, and be it further resolved that a copy of these resolutions be transmitted forthwith by the Clerk of the Senate to the Cape Cod Museum of Natural History. Signed and adopted by Karen E. Spilka, President of the Senate, Michael Hurley, Clerk of the Senate, and presented by Senator Susan Moran.
Now, there's one more proclamation that will be read, but we're going to hold that to the very end because the very end is the most exciting part of this. Before we get to the next part, I'd also like to recognize, and he is here somewhere, Bob Dwyer. Where is Bob? There he is in the back. He's very modest. He is the president and executive director of both museums, Greenbrier Nature Center, and thank God for them because now we are back thriving again, and the Cape Cod Museum of Natural History down in Brewster. I also recognize in the audience a very famous children's librarian, but would like to point out that he was the very first naturalist, Stu, at the Greenbrier Nature Center in 1976 when Nancy Titcomb and others put that plan together thanks to the town and private ownership, and it's nice to have that kind of continuity here. Let's see. Also here tonight, representing the superintendent of Upper Cape Technical High School, and I must say I want to thank them again for being great partners, and they have prepared that cake, which I hope everybody has seen, and you guys are going to see it in a few minutes up close, for working with us and being so accommodating. And I will point out one thing. I am so technologically inept that had I sent them, something in a, I don't know, JPEG, I don't know what it is, with the picture in color on it, they would have been able to scan it and put it on the cake. Instead, I brought a piece of paper which had colorful characters on it, and so someone there, some very talented person, literally hand-painted the characters that you see on there. So it is one special cake, and for those of you who are working on your biceps, try to lift that. Anyhow, if David Sampson, who once sat up here, as I recall, oh wait, before we do that, David, one more thing. Not only am I technologically inept, but I also have a very bad memory. I'm going to ask Sandy, who has a big event at the end of this month, to quickly talk about it and...
Yes.
What else
So
you have?
the public library is hosting a 150th birthday celebration for the children and families of Sandwich. So on Saturday, January 27th, we have two seatings, one at 11 and one at 1:30. If you go to the Sandwich Public Library website, you can go through our event calendar, and we are asking people to register for those events. We have a lot planned. We have our fabulous, beloved, retired librarian coming back to read a story. Mr. Parsons is coming back to read a Thornton Burgess story to the children, and then there will be stations set up for crafts, a scavenger hunt, a pin the tail on the Thornton Burgess characters, and a photo op with a Thornton Burgess actor and Peter Cottontail himself. So we have a great day planned, fun events for children and families of Sandwich. One of the things we are working diligently on, we have made these little paper cakes, and our goal is to have, especially the children, but the people of Sandwich, if you come into the library and get a paper cake, we're asking you to color it and decorate it with the goal of having 150 of these on our children's room window by January 27th. So I brought a little stack of these cakes and a bunch of handy colored pencils for you all. So while we're enjoying the real cake, if you find it in your hole to take up a pen and draw a little cake, we would love to take those back to the library. So that's something to look for when you're having your cake. That's all.
Angie, thank you. Yeah, David. Okay. We're happy to have David Sampson, as I said a few minutes ago, who used to sit up here and is also a district school committee representative.
No, I'm actually just here tonight on behalf of Superintendent Forget. He called me earlier this week and asked me if I'd be willing to come represent the school tonight because there was a conflict. They have a school committee meeting, so he was unable to be here. I did offer to take his place at the school committee meeting, but he said he's contractually obligated to be there. I thought it sounded like a good time. But just on behalf of the school and the students did make the cake for this evening's celebration. I think it's just a really small example of the collaborative nature of the school and partnering with the community on so many different levels. And the school really appreciates the support of the taxpayers of the town of Sandwich. We have a number of projects in the works that the school has been working on with Mr. Dunham, and the students and the staff are very excited to execute those projects. But we do have a couple folks here tonight that I did want to introduce. One is a student from our Culinary Arts Department, a Sandwich resident, sophomore Tucker Maloney is here tonight. Tucker, if you just wouldn't mind standing up and waving maybe. Our culinary arts instructor and chef, Joe Elia, is here tonight. You'll notice that Chef Joe has his chef's coat on, and I'm guessing that's because I think he just came from the school where he probably served dinner to the school committee. This guy is an incredible chef. He's an incredible instructor with the students, and he's incredibly dedicated. Yesterday, the school hosted a slider challenge with 3 other technical schools from the region, and I saw him there last night after I almost had to be rolled out of the building. He does all the oversight for cooking for our dinner theater. Really, really exceptional person and does a great job with the students. Also here tonight is Nolan Leroy, our vocational director from the school. Also very, very long-standing employee, very dedicated to students and very dedicated to technical education. He oversees all of the technical programs for the school, and these are the guys that really make the magic happen, and they're out there in the shops and the technical areas with the students. As mentioned, the cake, which I was able to witness earlier, I have not tested it, but entirely hand-painted by a student over the previous days this week. Looks excellent, so I'm very excited about trying that. And I also just want to, from a personal level, recognize the efforts of the board members from the Cape Cod Museum of Natural History. Thornton Burgess holds a special place for so many Sandwich kids. And you think about when we were kids and Peter Rabbit and the Thornton Burgess house, and carrying on that tradition is so important, and it's such a part of the Sandwich story. So I'm very excited to be here tonight and participate with you. Thank you.
I didn't see Chef Joe sneak in, but he was great, and Nolan as well, and they took me on a tour of the kitchen up there, and it is something to behold. Everybody was busy. Nobody had a whip, a gun, or a chair to make them work. They were working at something that was very clearly something they loved, and it was great to see. and I'm glad you could be here this evening. And you have
And I
thing
one
to
more
say.
detail I was going to add. So the canal side dining room at the school offers a variety of services to the residents of the community in almost every shop area, I think, but don't test me on that. But the canal side restaurant is open from 11 to 1. You just have to call the school and make reservations, and it's all operated by the students, top to bottom. Students serve food, cook food, and you can sit in the beautiful glass dining room overlooking the canal. So I'd encourage you to take advantage of that opportunity when you can. Thank you.
Thanks, David. That was not a paid ad, that was a public service announcement, a PSA. So lastly, I turned to the chairman of the select board and asked Shane if he would read citation.
Sure. So we have a proclamation. When the glacier drew away from Cape Cod and life flowed back to the land, wild creatures made their home in the woods, fields, lakes, ponds, and marshes of Sandwich. Whereas a native son of Sandwich, Thornton W. Burgess, with aesthetic appreciation of the beauty and the meaning of living things, passed on to young and old his love of the wonders of nature through thousands of bedtime stories and books of fact and fancy. Therefore, it is fitting that on the 150th anniversary of his birth, the citizens of Sandwich set aside January 14th, 2024, as a time to hold in a wed's memory and appreciation this outstanding naturalist, conservationist, and prolific author whose love of the natural world will continue to inspire future generations. And we also have the proclamation framed here as well.
One of our goals had been to include as many organizations and people in town as possible, and I'd like to point out that calligraphy was done by a young woman who went through the Sandwich schools and now teaches at the Forestdale School, and her name is Katie Aldridge, and some of you may know the Aldridges and Katie and so on. And lastly, I would just like to point out, it is so weird to sit at a table with Dave Sampson, having recently looked at my son's second grade class picture and seeing my son and David there together. Yeah, they've come a long way. And finally, I would like to ask my son and his son if they would bring that 4,000-pound cake. It is unbelievable. Up to the chair and place it there, and he will make the ceremonial cut.
Come on, James, lift with your legs. What's that?
Jim, is it true you have a Peter Rabbit suit?
Yeah, yes.
You didn't wear it today.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I've outgrown it, so we got another one on order.
This is a big one.
Heavy, isn't it? Give him room. It's unbelievable. And
I'm backing away. I'm not being responsible.
probably a knife would be.
Wow, that's impressive. All right, ready? Where's Jim? He should be up here. Jim.
Yeah, he should be, yeah.
Jim.
Sir.
We're going to do this like at my wedding. Come on over. Yes.
Okay, what?
All right, come on in with the picture. You ready? Yeah.
My pal Shane.
All right, we'll make
Beautiful.
the cut. There we go.
He was very careful not to cut an animal, but he cut
That's
into
right.
the tree.
That's it.
Now,
Perfect.
will those two strong people come back
Come on,
and
James.
take this cake up to the table? And we'll cut some slices for you folks, which I don't know if it's protocol, but you could eat
No, it's
while you're
totally
having your meeting.
Yeah,
Huh?
totally fine. We'll figure it
And
Just leave the cake with
anybody
Shane.
who would like a piece of this marvelous cake, you just get up, go, and cut yourself a slice.
out.